In this video, I will show you how to replace the headlight switch in a 4th generation Kia Sportage. The headlight switch is built into this multifunction stalk on the steering column, the same lever that controls your turn signals and fog lights. That means to fix a bad headlight switch, you will have to replace the entire combination stalk assembly. On this vehicle, both the headlight switch and windshield wiper washer switch are designed as a single integrated unit. This means you will have to replace the entire multifunction switch assembly, which includes both stalks, the headlight and turn signal stalk, and the windshield wiper and washer stalk, since they are built together as a one complete piece, which I will show you later in this video. To access the headlight switch stalk, you will first have to remove the driver airbag module, the steering wheel, and the clock spring behind the wheel. Alright, before we can get to the airbag and steering wheel, we need to remove the steering column covers that surround the column. The steering column cover is split into two pieces. The upper cover, the top half that you see when you are sitting in the driver's seat, and the lower cover, the bottom half that extends down toward your knees. You have to remove the upper cover first because it hides the screws for the lower cover. The upper cover is held in place purely by plastic clips. Gently grab the upper cover from the backside in front of the instrument cluster and pull it straight upward. You will hear the clips pop free one by one. Once it's loose, lift it up and let it rest on the instrument cluster. Now with the upper cover gone, you will see two screws at the front of the lower cover, one at the top left and one on the top right. These screws are partially blocked by the steering wheel itself, so we need to rotate the steering wheel to access them. Start the engine so the power steering is active and the wheel turns freely. Turn the steering wheel slightly to the left to expose the left screw. Then use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove it. Next, turn the wheel to the right and take out the right screw. Once both screws are out, bring the steering wheel back to the center position so that the front wheels are pointing perfectly straight ahead. This alignment is crucial for reassembly. Before we go any further, disconnect the negative battery terminal. This is a must-do safety step. We are about to remove the driver's airbag, and disconnecting the battery prevents any accidental deployment. Once disconnected, wait at least 10 minutes to let any residual charge in the airbag system to fully discharge. Never skip this waiting period. It's a critical safety measure. Okay, back to the lower cover. Move underneath the steering column and locate the single screw at the very bottom of the lower cover. Remove that one too. Now all three screws are out. Gently pull the lower cover downward. You will feel it catch onto the steering wheel adjustment lever. So push that lever down to the unlocked position to give yourself more room. It might feel a bit stuck because it's tucked behind the lower dashboard trim. Tilt the steering wheel all the way up to its highest position. Then carefully squeeze the top edges of the cover and wiggle it free from the dashboard opening. Once it's out, set it aside somewhere safe. You should now lock the steering wheel to stop it from shifting while you're working on the airbag. With the covers off, you can now see what we are dealing with here. This is the multifunction switch assembly that we have to take out. But first we will have to remove the airbag module, then the steering wheel itself, and then the clock spring. Only after removing all these components, you will be able to access and replace the headlight multifunction stalk. Now that the steering column covers are off and the battery has been disconnected for at least 10 minutes, we are ready to remove the driver airbag module from the steering wheel. The driver airbag is secured to the steering wheel by 3 retaining clips, one on the left side, one on the right side, and one at the bottom. Start with the bottom clip. This one is easiest to access. Look for the small access hole underneath the steering wheel, right under the airbag module. Insert a Phillips head screwdriver and gently push inward on the retaining tab. Once the clip releases, you will feel the airbag loosen slightly at the bottom end. Next, move to the left side clip. Through the opening on the back of the steering wheel, you will see a metal rod passing over a metal tab. Insert a small flathead screwdriver or a pick tool like this one and push the rod inward toward the center of the steering wheel. When the clip disengages, the airbag will loosen further on that side. Next, repeat the same process on the right side. Locate the metal rod, push it inward until the clip releases, and you will feel the airbag loosen from that end as well. With all 3 clips released, carefully pull the airbag module away from the steering wheel. Be extra careful, it is still connected by electrical wires at the back. You will see 2 electrical connectors on the rear. The first is this white plug with black wiring harness. This is for the horn. You can remove the horn connector by pulling it straight out from the terminal. The second is the critical yellow connector in the center. This is the airbag inflator connector. It has a safety lock. You will see small tabs or sliders on both sides. Lift both tabs, then gently pull the connector straight out. Once both connectors are unplugged, the airbag module is completely free. On the back side of the airbag module, you can clearly see the 3 retaining clips we just released earlier. For safety reasons, always place the airbag module face up, Kia logo side up, on a flat, stable surface away from your workspace. Never lay it face down and keep it out of direct sunlight or extreme heat. With the airbag module safely removed, the next step is to take off the steering wheel itself. But before we do that, we must first free up the wiring harnesses. The wiring harnesses for the airbag and horn are secured to the frame of the steering wheel with a single screw. Use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove it and free up the wires. Next, disconnect the main wiring harness from the clock spring located behind the steering wheel. This wiring harness is for the steering wheel buttons. Push in the release tab on the connector and pull it straight out until it comes free. Right in the middle, you will see the large 21mm steering wheel bolt. So to remove it, you will need a 21mm socket. If you do not already know, 21mm is the same size for the lug nuts in Sportage. So I'm going to use a lug nut wrench because it provides better leverage. The steering wheel bolt is usually installed with thread locker from the factory, which can make it harder to break loose with a small ratchet. First, make sure the steering wheel is well supported. I like to clamp it tight between my knees while I'm loosening the bolt. Or if you have got a buddy nearby, have them hold it steady for you. Whatever you do, do not let it flop around freely. You do not want to put too much stress on the electronic steering column lock. That thing is expensive and a huge pain to replace. Apply smooth steady pressure in counterclockwise direction until the bolt breaks free. Once it pops free, just spin it the rest of the way until it is off the shaft. You can see here the factory put thread locker on the threads. That's why it was so hard to break loose. Now, super critical step before we remove the steering wheel, we have to mark its position. If you skip this and slap it back on even slightly rotated, you will end up with a crooked steering wheel when you are driving perfectly straight. Grab a permanent marker and draw multiple straight lines that run from the metal steering shaft across and onto the inner metal part of the steering wheel hub. Just simple reference lines. Takes a few seconds, saves you a lot of headache later. Once everything is marked, grab the steering wheel firmly with both hands and pull it straight towards you. It should slide off the shaft without much resistance. As it is coming off, go slow and guide the airbag wiring harness carefully through the opening in the back of the wheel. Put it somewhere safe. Right behind the steering wheel, you will see the clock spring. This component is very important because it maintains the electrical connection to the airbag, steering wheel controls, and horn while the steering wheel turns. Try not to rotate the clock spring by hand. However, if you do turn it by mistake, do not worry. There's an easy way to rotate it back to the correct center position before reinstalling the steering wheel, which I will show you later in this video. Before removing the clock spring, you must disconnect the electrical connectors located near the bottom. There are two connectors, yellow and white. The yellow one is the airbag circuit connector, so it includes an extra safety lock to prevent accidental disconnection. Take a close look at the front of the connector and you will see a small locking tab. Carefully slide this safety lock backward. Once the lock is released, gently pull the connector straight out. Next, move to the white connector. This connector does not have a secondary lock and is easier to remove. Press the small release tab on the side while pulling the connector straight out. Once both the connectors are unplugged, the clock spring is now ready to be removed. The clock spring is held in place by 3 plastic retaining clips, 2 located at the bottom corners and 1 at the top. Start with the 2 bottom clips. Each corner has a small plastic tab. Using your fingers, gently pull these tabs downward while lightly pulling the clock spring toward you. You should feel the lower portion begin to loosen from the steering column. After releasing the bottom clips, move to the top clip, which is usually tighter than the others. This clip is easier to release using a flathead screwdriver. Carefully insert the screwdriver under the top tab and gently pry upward just enough for the clip to disengage. Once all 3 clips are released, you can easily remove the clock spring from the steering column. With the clock spring removed, you now have clear access to the headlight stalk or multifunction switch assembly mounted on the steering column. This assembly includes both stalks, the turn signal and headlight control, and the windshield wiper and washer control. And on this vehicle, they are built together as a one complete unit. Before we can remove it, we have to disconnect its wiring harness. The entire switch assembly uses one main electrical connector located at the rear. To disconnect the connector, press the release tab on the side and pull the connector straight out of its socket. Once the connector is unplugged, locate the mounting screws that secure the multifunction switch assembly to the steering column. There are 2 of them at the front, right in the middle. Remove these screws using a Phillips head screwdriver. After removing both the screws, slide the entire multifunction switch assembly straight off the steering column shaft. Here is a close-up of the headlight switch assembly. This is the part number for this specific unit, but keep in mind that your vehicle might use a different part number, depending on the year of manufacture or trim level. Now take your replacement headlight switch assembly and carefully slide it onto the steering column shaft. Make sure it lines up properly with the mounting points. Once it is properly seated, reinstall the mounting screws you removed earlier. Next, reconnect the electrical connector at the back of the assembly. Press it straight in until you hear or feel it click into place, ensuring a proper connection. With the multifunction switch assembly installed, now it's time to reinstall the clockspring. Carefully align the clockspring with the mounting points on the steering column. You want to make sure those tabs on the bottom and top are lined up with the slots. Once everything's lined up, push it in until all three clips snap into place. Next, reconnect the electrical connectors at the bottom. Push each connector into its slot until you hear a click. Before reinstalling the steering wheel, you need to make sure the clock spring is in neutral or center position. This step is very important. Inside the clock spring is a flat ribbon cable that is wound in a spiral. This ribbon cable carries electrical signals to the airbag, horn, and steering wheel buttons while the steering wheel turns. If the clock spring is not centered during the reinstallation, the ribbon cable can stretch or tear when the steering wheel is turned fully left or right. This can lead to issues such as an airbag warning light, a dead horn, or steering wheel buttons not working. On this vehicle, there's a simple visual way to confirm the correct center position. Look closely at the clock spring housing and find the small transparent inspection window located around the 10 o'clock area. This is known as the neutral check window. When the clock spring is properly centered, you should be able to see the white ribbon cable clearly through this window. If the white cable is not visible, the clock spring is not in the correct position. If adjustment is needed, slowly and gently rotate the clock spring until the white ribbon cable appears in the inspection window. Do this carefully and never force it. If you feel resistance, stop immediately, because the clock spring only rotates a limited number of turns, and forcing it can permanently damage the internal ribbon cable. Once the white ribbon cable is clearly visible through the neutral check window, the clock spring is correctly centered and ready for steering wheel reinstallation. Take the steering wheel and begin by carefully guiding the airbag wiring harness through the center opening of the wheel. Next, align the steering wheel with the steering shaft splines. As you position it, match the steering wheel exactly with the reference marks you made earlier. As you move the steering wheel closer to the shaft, pay special attention to the two small plastic locating dowel pins at the front of the clock spring. These pins must fit into the matching holes on the back of the steering wheel. If the pins are not lined up right away, you can gently rotate the clock spring slightly until the pins match their corresponding holes. Once everything is aligned, slide the steering wheel straight onto the shaft until it is fully seated. Before moving on, double check your reference marks. Look closely at the lines on the steering shaft and the matching lines on the steering wheel frame. They should line up perfectly. If they are even slightly off, pull the steering wheel back off and reposition it until the marks match exactly. Spending a few extra seconds here will prevent a crooked steering wheel later. Now it's time to reinstall the steering wheel center bolt. Start by threading the bolt in by hand. Turn it several rotations to make sure it goes in smoothly. This step is important because it prevents cross-threading, which could damage the steering shaft. You should also apply a small amount of medium-strength thread locker. This helps prevent the bolt from loosening over time due to vibration. Once the bolt is started by hand, use a 21mm socket and ratchet to begin tightening it. Turn the bolt in clockwise direction until it is fully seated against the steering wheel frame. After the bolt is fully seated, the final step is to tighten it to the correct specification using a torque wrench. The recommended torque for the steering wheel center bolt is 44.1 to 49 Nm, which is approximately 32.5 to 36.2 pound-feet of torque. Next, reconnect the main electrical connector to the clock spring. Align the connector carefully and push it straight in until you hear or feel a click. Now secure the airbag and horn wiring harnesses to the steering wheel using the small screw you removed earlier. With the wiring secured, it's time to reinstall the airbag module. Bring the airbag module close to the steering wheel and reconnect the electrical connectors at the back. Take the yellow airbag connector, align it with its slot and push it in until you hear a click. Then grab the horn connector and slide it onto its terminal until it is fully seated. Once both connectors are attached, carefully position the airbag module into the center of the steering wheel, aligning the clips with their mounting points. Press it in until all the clips engage. Now it's time to reinstall the steering column covers. Start by positioning the lower steering column cover back into place. Make sure it fits snugly around the steering column. Once the lower cover is aligned, reinstall the bottom mounting screw underneath the steering column. Now, to reinstall the upper screws, reconnect the negative battery terminal first. Then start the engine, so the steering wheel can be turned freely. With the engine running, turn the steering wheel to the left to expose the left upper mounting point, then reinstall that screw. Then turn the steering wheel to the right and reinstall the screw on that side. Once all three screws are in place, reinstall the upper steering column cover. Align the clips with their mounting slots, then press evenly across the cover until all the clips snap into place. Make sure both the upper and lower covers are flush and there are no gaps. After everything is fully reassembled, take the car for a test drive. While driving on a straight road, confirm that the steering wheel sits perfectly centered. Also, test the headlight stalk to make sure everything is working properly. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to VJam for more DIY car repair videos. Thanks for watching.